All right, hello YouTube. This is the first video here from South Texas Syntropics. Just want to give a little intro. So let's start with what is syntropic farming, right? Syntropic farming is a farm that's building complexity, benefiting the ecosystem, enriching the ecosystem, and trying to prove to still be economically viable, which it has been done and it is economically viable. So here's a perfect example of building complexity. Grass is a very simple life form, whereas prickly pears, nopales, have moisture holding ability. They produce not only the vegetable, the nopal, but also the prickly pears, the tunas, right? So holds moisture, produces veggies, produces fruits. It's a more complex life form, but it's a pretty hardy life form. So we're on a dry farm here, so we're starting with some really hardy crops using what we have in the system already, incorporating the trees, trying to work in that north to south orientation. But yeah, so that's syntropic farming, building complexity, building resilience, and how it translates to the farm is having a more diverse system, promotes biodiversity, and overall gives you a variety of crops and gives you resilience. So this is another row. We incorporated the sweet acacia here. This is the first year on the farm, so those pads were just put down. On average, a pad probably about once every 2 meters, or I'm sorry, about 2 pads per meter. And this is a more degraded area of the property, right? You guys can see these patches where nothing's growing. It's almost more similar to a desert. This soil is it's like concrete, right? Not much organic material. Soil temperatures get close to 150 degrees. I've seen it at 149. In Celsius terms, I'm not too sure for all the non-American viewers, probably like 60 Celsius or something. But yeah, so, this is a row right here. Nopales, we're incorporating what we have on the farm. And that's all just part of working with nature, you guys. That's the biggest part of syntropics. You want to work with nature, work with succession, work with strata. And by strata, we're talking about the light requirement of trees. So, you know, trees tend to organize themselves into stratas depending on how much light they prefer. So we want to work with succession, work with strata, create those microclimates to promote the biodiversity and be able to grow some more valuable crops, right? So that's kind of a syntropic system in a nutshell, the upward spiral where things build in complexity, build in resilience. Kind of the contrary of an entropic system, let's say a monoculture cornfield, for example. You have one crop, it's a magnet for any pests that like that crop. And then you're tilling the soil every year, losing that organic material, that microbiology in the soil. Which, by the way, for every 1% organic material you have in the soil, you're going to hold about 25,000 gallons of water per acre. So if you build up to 4% organic material in the soil, 1 acre could hold 100,000 gallons of water, right? So when you're tilling, you're not only creating bare soil, destroying that microbiology. It's like then you need to irrigate more because the land doesn't hold as much water. You need to fertilize more because the plants can't generate their nutrients, synthesize their nutrients in symbiosis with those microbes. And then you have to spray for pests more. And then you go down the downward spiral, right? Where it's just more and more inputs, more and more habitat loss, habitat destruction, losing biodiversity, all in the name of generating a crop agriculture when historically we know that that's not really necessary. There's plenty of systems that can be syntropic systems and benefit the ecosystem. So I'm not saying every system, every farm needs to be syntropic, but if you can even get 5% of farmland practicing some sort of syntropic agriculture. By the way, it is a little windy. I have a microphone on for this, but not too sure how good it's going to do, so we'll see. Hope the wind's not too bad. But yeah, if we can even get 5% of farmland practicing some syntropic methods, if there's 1,000,000 acres of farmland, well, that's 50,000 acres that's now promoting biodiversity, helping the ecosystem, and producing a variety of crops rather than just, you know, taking away from the ecosystem. So we know it's possible. We know there's economically viable ways to do this. I'm not claiming to be the expert on syntropic farming, but I have dedicated myself fully to it now. So, there's no paychecks that are going to be coming in from anything besides the farm. Yeah, you guys, our goal, work with nature, not against it, benefit the ecosystem, and do that all while creating an economically viable form of agriculture. So this is more nopales right here. Show you guys some of the fauna we have growing. So we have the prickly pears in this area. We have honey mesquites. We have palo verde. We have hackberry, that tallest tree there in the back. And underneath that we have saffron plum, La Goma. It's a member of the Sapodilla family. Here's another saffron plum right there, member of the Sapodilla family. And then growing underneath that saffron plum, we have Texas persimmons growing in the shade there. This is a perfect example of a syntropic system right here. This is first year on the farm, so that's just nature right there. You have the canopy tree creating a more protected microclimate, cooling the soil, which then provided enough protection to grow the saffron plum, which, again, now you're getting into fruits that have an edible quality to them, right? And then underneath the saffron plum, you have the Texas persimmons growing. Absolutely delicious fruit. Which, by the way, little side note, this farm here, South Texas Syntropic, is going to be creating the first real cultivar of Diasporus texana from all the research I've seen. There is no existing cultivars just yet, but there will be. So there's quite a lot of trees of Texas persimmon growing on this property, and there's some that are standout. So through air layering, through grafting, and just seed propagation, pushing the genetics, definitely some exciting things to come with Diasporus texana, Texas persimmon. But anyway, I think that's a good kind of summary of the farm. Showed you some of the things we got growing, showed you some of the soil we're working with, some of the existing microclimates, which range from more protected things where we have Texas persimmons growing to the really bare soil where the only thing that'll really grow is prickly pear. I mean, again, the patches like this that are just bare, this is not part of the road, but there's some areas where not even the grass will really grow. So, it's a little bit of a range. We're in a semi-arid climate here. Some years we classify as arid, some years we're above semi-arid, which semi-arid is classified as 10 to 20 inches of rain per year. So on average, we're semi-arid. There's been years where we're arid, as little as 5 inches of rain, and then other years where big storms come through and we'll get 30 plus inches of rain a year. So we're in a climate zone 9. But these classifications, these climate zones, arid, semi-arid, these are all just things people do to make things easier to understand. As people, we like to classify things for ease of comprehension. But again, just because we're technically semi-arid doesn't mean there's years with more or less. And again, just because it's zone 9 doesn't mean that the temperatures are always going to get as low as you think. Doesn't mean they'll be as high as you think. Being in South Texas, it is a continental climate, so those Arctic blasts all the way up from Canada, they get to just ride over the land, ride over the country, and they can reach us down here, and we can get down into the low 20s. Although a week or 2 weeks later, we can have 80, 90, even 100-degree weather. So it's a pretty wild climate down here. Boars, rattlesnakes, scorpions, all sorts of things that'll do you pretty nasty. But yeah, so we're here to promote biodiversity, enrich the ecosystem. We're a dry farm currently, so zero irrigation. And there's a lot of steps, there's a lot of work to do, but we're on that path. So anyway, appreciate y'all for watching. Though there will be more updates talking about things we got going on, talking about the fruits that we'll be growing, the different crops we'll be growing, the different rows we plant, just all sorts of updates that'll happen. So stay tuned, and I appreciate you guys for watching. All right, have a good one.